But what is injustice? It's the absence of justice. It's unfair treatment. It's a violation of someone's right. It's wrong. It's what's wrong. And there's right and there's wrong, but there's no middle ground. There really isn't. Yes, there's grace and mercy, but wrong is still wrong and right is still right. God may show mercy when someone does wrong, but he's still not approving of the wrong. Justice is being fair. It's conforming to the truth. It's doing what's right. We live in a society where there's just too many gray areas. If it feels good, do it. If it seems right to you, it's all right. But it's not all right, because God is sitting on a throne whose foundation is justice and mercy. And he is the all-seeing God. He sees it all. You can't justify injustice ever. You can forgive a wrong, but evil is still evil. Solomon did what was right. But see, it took God's discernment to discern the truth and to make the decision. My first mentor in the prophetic, she always said she wanted her gravestone, her headstone, to say she did what was right. And that always struck me. And that was like my aspiration as well, because I so admired her, and I saw that she always tried to do what was right. We won't always do what's right, but at least we can try. At least we can try. The problem is we live in a corrupt society. Proverbs 21 verse 2. Every way of man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the hearts. So many things seem right to the people that are doing them. Some of them, their conscience has just been seared with a hot iron. That's why they think it's right. I mean, how a pastor could run a Ponzi scheme in his church and think that's right, I don't know. Maybe he justified it in some way that he was going to use the goods to preach the gospel. I don't know. But when the pastors get caught running sex traffic rings, that's just a whole nother level of evil. And this is happening in the church. God defines what is just and unjust in the Bible. Tell your neighbor, it's not up to you. God is a just God. Somebody say, God is a just God. You really need to be convinced that God is a just God. I mean, you need to be convinced that God is a just God. No matter what's happened to you, no matter what happens to you in the future, you must stand on this truth that God is love, and love is just and hates injustice. We're going to seek justice today. If you're not convinced of his justice, you won't have the faith to stand for it. You'll waver between two opinions. Why, God, why? Why did you let this happen to me? You're not understanding God's justice if you're asking that question. He didn't want it to happen to you, whatever it is. He didn't want it to happen to you. Sometimes we make wrong decisions and then he cleans up the mess, but he'll still bring justice even when we messed it up. Oh, Jesus, if anybody, we just sang how good God is, and then I'm talking about the justice of God, and you're like, I don't know, because, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's part of his goodness. It's part of his nature. God is incapable of injustice. He's incapable. He can do nothing that is unjust. Deuteronomy 32:4. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are justice. A God of truth, and without injustice, righteous and upright is he. Somebody say amen. Amen. Psalm 89:14. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Mercy and truth go before your face. The Passion Translation says, your glorious throne rests on a foundation of righteousness and just verdicts. Grace and truth are the attendants who go before you. I love that. You know how Goliath had that armor bearer, and the armor bearer was like the fear guy. The guy that said, Goliath's coming, watch out, you're a dead man. God has these armor bearers called truth and grace that go before him. He's made a way for you Some of you need to get happy today. This is why you've got to take your complaint to God instead of taking it to your neighbor. This is why you've got to take your complaint to the throne instead of getting on the phone and calling 5 people and complaining about what everybody did to you. Just don't waste your breath. Just don't waste your time. Just go ahead and cry out to the God of justice. Amen? Yeah. That's the only way. It's the only methodology by which you can attain restoration for that which has been stolen for you. There's some battles you go and you take back what the devil stole. I understand the concept of spiritual warfare and going in and punching the devil and taking it back. But there are some issues of justice that only God himself, who sits on the throne, can drop the hammer on the devil's head. I'm telling you the truth.